Aloha, you got Steve Ricks here. I am the Chief Experience Officer at Imagine That, and catch me this week on The Jesse T Show.
Steve, welcome to The Jesse T Show, brother.
Dude, I've been looking forward to this for a long time now, right? I mean, and we've what did we meet, like 2 months ago?
Around there.
Yeah, but it feels like we've known each other for millennial.
We are definitely, our souls recognize each other.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
So when you said, hey, come on the show, I've been like, when? And now here we are. Yeah, good.
We're just coming off a transcendent weekend for
It was
16
amazing.
beautiful souls.
Just amazing.
Was so powerfully healing and touching and moving, and we are full of it.
Yeah.
I'm charged up.
Spilling over, right? And I think when you say something like that, part of your audience probably goes, wow, that's super exciting. Part of the audience says, what did you do this week? You know, like, the mystery of language sometimes confuses people, but the truth is you taught a whole bunch of people how to release by relaxing and by what I like to call playing. Now, you did a lot of deep play work because you got people experimenting with all sorts of different modalities that maybe they're not comfortable with, but the essence of real growth is always being curious and open to play.
Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
You have a way to play right here.
Yeah, I do, because I'm sure a lot of your listening audience is like me, which, or maybe like the way I used to be. I'm feeling my own shift around tactical, strategic energy, right? Like, we got to get all these tools and we got to be somewhere and go somewhere and do something and climb mountains of achievement, right? And all those things can be useful, but oftentimes what I've found is that if we don't check in with ourselves, kind of like you gave us a number of times this weekend, hey, let's check in with one word, right? That was a beautiful exercise, repeatedly.
Yes.
So this gives you, I think, about 52 different words, and a shout out to my buddy Brian Stinson, who created this. Peak Values is what it's called. And what I'm going to ask you to do, because it won't take very long for you, for some people it takes longer because they lack clarity. But real quickly, what I'd like you to do is, each card has a word, has a definition, an image to kind of represent, and then some synonyms. Now, you may know this word is harmony to feel like something different, but go with their definition.
Okay.
Step one, you're going to create 3 piles.
Okay.
Pile number 1, that word doesn't really resonate with me right now. It's not who I am, it's not what I need, right? Pile number 2, maybe not, but pile number 3, I am rock solid. This word resonates with who I am now.
Yes.
Put those in those piles.
Okay.
Take you a couple minutes, and while you're doing it, I'll kind of just talk you through. And for our listening audience, generally speaking, when we think about who we are and what we're representing, we use words or pictures to kind of identify ourselves with certain things. And what Jesse's doing right now is identifying with these words or these pictures. And it's kind of fun because probably by design, many of these words are things that you and I would oftentimes be thinking about are super important to us. Yes. And for those of you watching, we've got 3 piles, the I identify with, the maybe not right now, but possibly, and the absolutely not. And Jesse is like a lot of people who, there's not very much going in the absolutely not, because all these words, you know, they're the kinds of things we want to identify with. And it'll be fun to see where this goes, because this pile is a mountain, yeah, which is very common for people who do this exercise. And the value is twofold. We don't generally take our own mental inventory because we're so darn busy in life. And if we slow down long enough to see some of this, then we can actually be aware of how we're showing up. So notice the very thin pile of these words could or could not be useful, and notice the absent pile of none, right? Now, just as when I was first introduced to this, Jesse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. Jesse, you have the record for the most in the
I
pile.
don't know if it's good or bad, I'll take it.
So,
Call me.
yeah, so there's a lot of things going on in your head that you resonate with, right? So just as an example, earlier today, I did this with one of your co-creators and co-facilitators, Lane, and he had 18 words.
Wow.
Yeah, right? So there's a sharpness about what he's feeling about himself.
Dialed in where I'm all over.
Well, a little bit, right? Which is, again, not good or bad, but just something to look at.
Sure.
So now what I want you to do is I want you to go through again and say, and we're going to tighten the question.
Yeah.
These are the words that just resonate with me right now.
Yeah.
I want you to
dive right now.
Yeah. And I think you're going to see you can go through it even quicker and that you're going to end up with less, right? And there's a lot of ways to kind of play with this exercise, alter it a little bit. But the premise is getting dialed in, because when we're dialed in, what we understand about neuroscience is the brain is quite exacting. Like, the brain doesn't have a margin of error on how it replicates cells, generally speaking. The brain doesn't have a margin of error on heartbeats or on neurotic signals. And so the more precise we become in consciousness, the more precise we become in how we show up for everything we're doing and how we're aware of how other people are showing up. And it's really very useful. These are the words we are now.
This is my ethos today.
Okay, cool. Now, this part may be, and it's still a lot, right? But this part may be real simple for you. So you're going to start seeing words.
Yes.
And some of these words are going to feel like others. So family might go with love,
Yep,
right?
no
And
question.
community, right? Integrity might go with wisdom. I want you to put them in groups.
Yep.
Whether you have 4, 5, 6 groups, doesn't matter, but the words that fit in the groups most. Because now what we're doing is we're taking time to see the relationships that words have and how we put them together. And while you may not be able to see these, listening audience, he's got words like love, family, community, happiness. They go together, which is true. And other people might put those words in different frameworks, which is also true. And the premise of that is, while you're doing this, I'll just tell you a story of one of my favorite coaching clients. They're up in New York, and she's a beautiful woman, 53. She says to me, this is about a year ago, she said, Steve, I almost feel embarrassed to tell you this, but it just finally occurred to me that not everybody thinks like I think. Yes. And the truth is a lot of people forget that we don't think alike, because a lot of times we spend our time in levels of consciousness where people are thinking like we are. But when we get down to the finest points in life of like where we're really at, again, precision is everything.
Yes.
And you're coming to the end of this part, which is real good, because
Yes.
in moments you're going to see what we call your core value pyramid, the things that really help you operate today.
Yes.
All right. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 groups.
And they're in piles for a reason.
Awesome.
Yes.
So pick the one word in each group that you can't live without today. You say, this is shining through me today. So that's the word today. Yes. Simplicity. Got it? Love. Great. Empathy. Wonderful. And beauty, beautiful. Okay, we're going for a trip today, and there's 2 more passengers in your mind today that must come along for the journey. Who are the last 2 passengers? Family, okay. All right, we sweep all this to the side. This is the clutter of Jesse's mind. Now, which of those words is like the pinnacle of your beingness as we speak now? Love. Okay. Which of these words best bolster and support you being love? 2 of them. Okay, empathy and simplicity.
So spirituality.
Oh, spirituality, sorry. Glasses. Oh, yeah. Okay, which of these words is like that centering, grounding energy to support all of this?
It's both, but I'm going to go here.
Okay, so now watch this. What you've got is a person who, as he approaches his day, is driven by expressions of attraction to all things love. What helps him create that is being in touch with his spirituality and being sensitive to what's going on in other people's lives. Family, which can be defined in any number of ways. I'm your family, right? Because you're definitely mine. Yeah, as well as blood family. And sometimes yes, sometimes no for people, but that core energy with the guardrails of behaving with ethics and ensuring there's beauty, does that represent what you're feeling right now? Now, this is where it gets really fun. You don't have your phone handy, but well, we can just leave that, but I want you to take a picture of it later, because then what we'll do is we'll take a look at that alongside your co-creators, which is radically different, but wonderfully useful, right? I think the one word he had that you had was beauty. Right? Yeah, and
ties us together,
yeah, because have you ever heard, when people are, some of our audience probably business, some it's spiritual, some it's playful, but like if I'm at a family gathering and I want to ground the family, maybe playing with an exercise like this beforehand helps everybody see what they're bringing to the family table. We talked about, had maybe you done this with your team leaders prior to the actual retreat experience this weekend, it'd give you a good sense of who to use where based on what they're bringing in, right? And just being sensitive of how we have tools. The best example I can give you, remember that movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Yeah. They were badass gangsters, right? And they just lived right to the last minute, but they knew how to play to each other's strengths. This is about elevating strengths and awareness and playing to the maximum ability of how we're thinking today. Pretty cool, huh?
Yes. I can't wait to see what Lane and Tori and other people.
Yeah, and I do it about every 6 months, and after this weekend, I'm definitely going to do it today so we can compare as well. But play in general, and I'd love to tell you that I one day woke up and had this download of the whole world needs to play, but it didn't happen like that. But today I can tell you, like, play is the core energy of my life.
Where did that come from?
It started 7.5 years ago. I was going through a divorce. I was in Hawaii, which is still home for me today. And I was literally commiserating on the beach, kind of, knees up, tucked up, elbows wrapped around knees, looking at the beach saying, oh, poor me. Who says, oh, poor me on Sunset Beach in Oahu? Apparently I did. And two little kids come along and said, hey, mister, you want to play? And in a moment, I was like, of course I don't want to play. Don't you know I'm in the most miserable place in the whole world? Nobody's got it worse than me, right? Which, of course, was the lie. But I couldn't resist. How do you say no to innocence? I said, I'll play. And within a half hour, and their parents came, oh, you don't have to. I said, no, I want to. And within a half hour, my energy was so full, so open, and so to giving, and I was drawn back to the first coach I ever hired for me. And as you know, I coach and consult and incite riots of play.
Fellow rioters.
Yes, we're rioters. We are insurrectionists of curiosity and play. And yet, yes, for sure. So in my first or second session, I don't remember, he brings in this Tupperware. It's opaque. I can't see what's in it. He opens it, and it's a bunch of Legos. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've never had a coach before. It's only our second session. I pay this guy a lot of money, and he wants me to build things with Legos? I thought we were supposed to make me better. So I walked away from that time on the beach, and I was immediately drawn back to that. And I thought, wait a minute. Everything I need, I can access from a state of play. Yeah. And it was like this quick download of thought. And I stirred with it for a moment. And I thought, maybe this is true. And I live on the North Shore, so it's not near town. So the next day I'm in town. And there's a Toys R Us. Now, since Toys R Us has gone bankrupt, but back then it was there. And I thought, I don't know why, I just walked in. I was like a half hour early for an appointment. I ended up being 15 minutes late to the appointment because I came out of the store with like $100 worth of toys. I had Play-Doh. I had a Minion that when I press it, it goes, banana, this kind of stuff. And I'm like, what am I doing? My favorite thing, I had a Slinky. And all of a sudden, I began to correlate ease, clarity, and peace with curiosity and imagination. And then I realized that I wasn't going to sleep at night, and I wasn't altering my state. I wasn't amped on fat burners, or, I wasn't, taking substances. I was literally just charged up mentally. And what I found as I woke up in the morning playing with it emotionally, I'd go down to the beach and I'd like call to the dolphins. I didn't even know where they were, but I was like, come out and play. And what I began to see is all this imagination stuff. It's like, it's not child's play. Right. It's the design of the human being. And I was telling someone the other day, if you think about the world as it exists now, business, employment, structure, transportation, communication, all these integral pieces, they've only been around the last couple hundred years. Before that, people played, worked the land, communed with their part of whether they were pioneers or a little village in Italy or a farm in the middle of Africa. It was very different. Yeah. And a lot has changed. And yet, I think if we can reconstitute play into our daily life, a lot comes from it. I know that's a lot, but you asked.
No, this is a great piece, because even as a dad, I've realized that the best way to build ties with my 6.5-year-old and 4.5-year-old son is play.
It's true.
And there's so much that goes behind being a parent, but really what at the end of the day is do you get down on their level, meaning like physically, are you seeing them eye to eye, you're not towering above them, dictating to them the whole time. They hear no, and you know the numbers so many times before a certain age, and they hear yes, like not even a 10% of that.
That's right.
And you're stunting genius in a lot of ways.
It's interesting you bring that up. I forget the book I was reading it in, but the premise of the book was that we robbed an entire generation, Gen X, which I think you're at the beginning end, I'm at the tail end. Yeah, you're the bridge to millennials, I'm the bridge to boomers, which I actually, sorry boomers, I'd like to just call it a wall goal. But that's how yeah, we do. But the premise of like Gen X, we were lost to the idea that our parents had built this pattern. And that pattern was 40 years, hard work, retire, and ease. And they lost their whole life in between, right?
Bitter and they lose out on their dreams and their goals.
Yes,
and they just live a life.
And during that, we gave birth to more millionaires and billionaires to create a distinct gap in societal class as far as monetary consideration. But more important than that, they taught us how to follow a formula with this idea, do this, get that. And so education to start with has for so long been, okay, 1 + 1 = 2, Billy. And what comes after C? D. Great. Like this whole premise of correct answers create rewards. Instead of curious questions being honored. So we shut down an entire generation of curiosity. That's why Gen X is lost in the equation. They really are.
Think about where they feel wrong. Like they use that term, I feel wrong. Like, did I do this wrong? Am I being wrong? Am I acting wrong?
Even this weekend in your retreat, right? Like, am I doing this right?
Right.
There is no right? There is no wrong, right? There's useful. And if we add not only the construct of education that taught us right and wrong, we have a lot of division around right and wrong in corporate governance, in nationwide governance, in religious ideas. What's right, what's wrong? We have to get away from these polarities and jump into the pool of play where we're curious. It's not about right and wrong. It's about an experiment. Some of them provide us great use. We keep using them. Some we say, throw those test tubes away because we blew up half the laboratory. And I'm so thankful there's a woman who did some personal development work. I did it with her, and her name's Kathy. And she said, if you approach life as an experiment, it's going to be simple. You're going to say, that didn't work. Try something else. That's right. Simple. Right?
Kids have one focus, and I see this, and I was always a big kid. I'll show you my collection of comics and toys at some point today when you're here. But that innocence was kind of taken to a degree because of just outside influences and the environment that I was in. But the light never dimmed completely. It was always at least flickering. It was always there. And then I started doing things in life that started brightening that light, and was able to really start to really like be on fire when it came to my curiosity and playfulness. And it makes life so much more full of color and abundant, because you're not always humdrum like time to make the donuts. Like you're like have a zest and a zeal for life.
Hands down. And I don't know how else to explain it except to say, think about when children are playing. They're the best example. And in a moment, something goes awry. Billy steals the kickball from Susie. And in a moment, they're upset, right? Or someone else wants to twist the rope while they're jumping rope.
Someone doesn't do it right. The other person's thing.
And yet instantly, in child behavior, there's tribal community to reset and say, it's okay. Like the goal of play, or not even the goal, the byproduct, the natural byproduct is harmony. Play is, look at nature. Nature plays every day. And we were born in that state. So if we could take from that how quickly children reset, because we always talk about this, like I'm single now, but I've had relationships. And remember these times when all of a sudden things are great, and then one of the two of you says, and it goes, no. And then literally and mentally we're going, all right, I'm going to make them suffer.
I'll get you.
Yeah, I'll get you. I'm just going to stay in this dark, low energy space. Kids don't know how to do that. They're like, wait a minute, that was so much fun. What's all the problem? Zing, right back up. Whereas it sometimes takes people in relationships or business or friendship days, weeks, hours, whatever. Sometimes never, right? Because like it's more important to be right than to be happy. Play allows us to constantly reset. And I believe it's how we pioneer new states of consciousness, because play is the safe way to experiment with thoughts, ideas, feelings that I've never had before, because it really is, I don't know, man, it's just a cacophony of all things goodness. If this is if this is the bowl of play, I can't eat anything out of it that's going to hurt me. Now, it may taste different, and that may create a little scare at first, but just like when somebody does a bungee jump and says, oh, and then they're like, again, right, or they're like, I don't know. We had some people who were like, I think I'm going to get in the water this weekend, right? I just follow in, just go for it. Right, exactly.
Get everybody ready. That's like the guy that the party started. He became the party starter.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
There's this beautiful illustration of, playing and letting go and then realizing greatness. And so Will Smith, years ago for his birthday, he was in Vegas and he had some friends that were set him up on a skydiving trip. And he went to bed the night before and he was scared as all get out. He's like, I don't want to do this. I'm going to find a way out of this. I'm going to tell them something. I'm going to wake up late, let my alarm. They didn't let him wake up late. They came in, they woke him up because they probably onto him. They know his MO.
Yeah, right.
A little self-sabotage from one of the, the greatest successes in so many ways. And so they get him to the airport. They get him.
Go. Fact is, our economy needs you right now. It's really been hurt because of how they had to shut down with tourism. However, the last year and a half, I've been on a bit of this nomadic journey here on the mainland, much of it spent in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I spent 20 years there. I love it. It's beautiful. There's lots of expressions of play. However, I often kid that Scottsdale is the illegitimate birth of one night stand between Las Vegas and Los Angeles.
That makes sense.
Because sometimes we get caught in the commercialization trap. And when I say sometimes, it is the energy of a lot of people to make sure their external form looks like amazing. Like guys got to be ripped and girls got to have everything in the right place and we got to have all the nicest stuff. It's the old keeping up with the Joneses mentality on steroids. And yet what I find is at moments, and I feel so blessed that people have trusted me to like be in some of these vulnerable spaces, you'll see the crack in that facade. And you'll find that there's deep, deep inner pain. I mean, we live in a world today where there are so many competing interests, and they're not competing for the well-being of all.
Right.
So it creates a defensive posture. And play is like that pixie dust that just disarms and allows you to let go. I was telling Lane about a friend who I've done a lot of work with, and they were talking about how they just don't cry very often.
Yeah.
And there was a point where there was a real opening, and I went to give a hug to just say, let it out. And the first response was no. Right? And I think many people are in that mode of, I just don't even want to open up and feel the pain. But when we get through the pain, through play, the suffering goes away. And a lot more people suffer. I have a friend who all she does is coach Fortune 100 CEOs by referral only. She never tells who she's working with, of course, it's very private. But one thing she said, Steve, some of these really huge leaders in the world of business are terrified in their soul, in their being. Their marriage is falling apart, or they've got a vice, or they've got a dark secret, and the whole world thinks they're brilliant.
Yes.
But inside, they're just dying.
We all suffer. Part of the human condition is suffering, but it doesn't have to be perpetual.
No.
And there's tools and there's things that you can do, especially with play and human growth and development and spirituality and whatever you're into, health and wellness, business. You can utilize these tools as ways to heal and as ways to heal other people. And I think one of the biggest points you made just recently in the last few sentences was, people that are keeping up with the Joneses. And when you do that, you get a lot of contempt, you get a lot of frustration, and comparison's the thief of joy, that old cliche.
Yeah.
If I want what you want, covet thy neighbor's goods, and you don't have those things,
then I'll never have happiness.
Right.
Yeah.
So happiness has to come from within, and you don't need a material possession. You can go outside and run and chase your kids.
Yep.
You can go outside and roll in the grass. You can make snow angels in the sand dunes at the golf course, right?
Guilty.
There's ways that you can create play, and a lot of times, most times, it can be free.
Yeah, that's the whole premise. And we've spent a lot of time talking about play. I think the thing that got me going with play is kind of the backstory. Remember how I said I was sad on the beach, right? Well, I had been around a lot of personal development work. I had done the Personal Success Institute, or what's commonly called PSI seminars. Years ago, I'd gone to an Unleash the Power Within, Tony Robbins. I'd read Proctor's stuff. I'd seen Cardone's.
You were in the world of self-help.
Yeah. It was just all, because in the businesses I've owned, my greatest joy wasn't the success of the business. It was my greatest heartache wasn't the failure of the business. My greatest successes were when I saw people make more money than they'd ever had. I saw marriages restored because somehow they coming to work gave them a different feel, or better relationships with their kids because they got something at work, right? And my greatest heartaches were when they were going through a divorce and talking about it here, or they were admitting to some form of addiction and being terrified. But it was the people. It was always the people. And so as I began to ask myself, my greatest heartaches, a millionaire twice, lost it twice, 3 great loves, 2 through marriage, 1 through just relationship, gone. Up and down on the ride of the body. I'm a little overweight today, but I got 70 pounds overweight at one point. I was obese, right? I was just trashing me.
Yes.
And
pain.
Pain, right? And sometimes through substance, aka drugs, right? But sometimes substance, it wasn't just drugs. It was the substance of achievement.
Yes.
If I could just get this title,
It'll make me feel
better.
Yes.
And when I began to dive deep into what is the neuroscience of human transformation, what I realized is you got things like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It only works on 60% of the world, if it works at all. There's a lot of science that says, I'm not sure that's what it used to be, right? You've got total immersion, right? So you got reality shows like The Biggest Loser. Somebody goes and loses